The U.S. Surgeon General is calling for a tobacco-style warning label on social media platforms. But for many technology experts, that solution falls flat, and they fear that the genie is out of the bottle and we're suffering. Our nightcap panel is still with us. Eddie, kids are going to use these social media platforms no matter what. There are parents frustrated, they're angry, but as they're talking about their frustration, their kids are doom scrolling. This change, it's important that the Surgeon General is calling for this, but there's not resources, there's not consequences. Does this announcement do anything to solve this problem?
No, it doesn't do anything to solve the problem, but it puts us on a path to eventually solve it, I think. I think we need to understand that we are all, and especially our children, beholden to these algorithms that are gin up grievance, the algorithms that force us to look upon ourselves like young girls who are experiencing these deeply troubled understandings of themselves, their sense of their bodies, their sense of beauty, right? The ways in which it's driving young people towards suicidality and the like. So part of what we have to do is to begin to think of these platforms as social goods, right? Right now they're platforms aimed at making profit, but they're also places for public deliberation and the like. And so they need to be regulated. I know that goes against the basic bloodstream of the orientation of certain folk in the country, but they have to be regulated, or the very foundation of American democracy will continue to fray. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it's absolutely the case, it seems to me.
Mary, children in this country, especially girls, are experiencing self-esteem issues, a loneliness crisis, and it is in large part because of these social media platforms. What do we need these companies to do? Because unless we force rules, the idea to do the right thing, their right thing is to make more money.
But how possible is tech regulation? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And it's their gangs, the cyberbullying gangs are where cowards go to die. When you hear, I'll give you an example. It happens in the Women's Tennis Association. You're so fat, I lost a bunch of money on you. You watch kids coming off the court, these young women, they got their bags, they've lost their match, they've taken their phone out of their bags, and they're looking at all this god-awful stuff that people are saying about them. I see it all the time. And you just pray, you just say, stay off of social media. Don't look at it during this tournament. That's how bad it is. And again, how you regulate that? Maybe it is too late. Is it too late? How do you protect your kids?
Listen, I have the reverse. I'm really, really difficult, and my kids have very, very limited access to social media. And then the problem with that is you're the odd man out. You are one step behind, and you're not connected to that social circle. So there isn't an easy answer. But, Susan, it goes beyond mental health. Kids are now, we're hearing more and more stories about kids being the victims of social media scams. They're getting tricked into sending inappropriate images or paying people money. They're getting stalked by predators. Lawmakers know about all of this, but Congress has done nothing. Is that because at the end of the day, the lobbying dollars from these social media companies are so massive, Congress just continues to turn a blind eye? Just having another hearing with CEOs doesn't do squat. It's just a show.
Part of it may be an issue of campaign cash, but part of it is just trying to figure out what would be effective to do. The Surgeon General's proposal, I wonder if it was just an effort to get everybody's attention, because he's been talking for several years about the need to do more for social media companies to act more responsibly, and he hasn't gotten very far. It's not like there's one solution. It's not like there's one law we can pass or one label we can slap on social media sites and it's going to take care of this problem. We need to do a bunch of different things together. Parents need to, Congress needs to do more regulation. Social media companies need to be more responsible. We shouldn't look at this as something that's already done and there's nothing we can do about it, because look at the plight of kids these days when they're growing up. It's become a really tough age.
Yeah. James, why do you think Congress has done so little? Yes, please.
I don't know. I mean, I will say this about social media. The meanest specimen on earth is a 7th grade girl. And I know each one of y'all will agree with me. and they use that. There's nothing more vicious than a 7th grade girl, I promise you. But, Mary and I had that experience. And and people are very concerned about it. How do you ban it? It's out there. It's in the ether. It's in the bloodstream. I don't know. I'm not savvy enough. I defer to somebody that has better ideas. But people are concerned about it. I see polling. I see data, and people don't like it, and they don't like big tech. But how do you outlaw it? I don't know. I'm not sufficiently able to do that, but I know that these 7th grade girls use it like crazy, man.
They sure do. So Eddie, then let me just ask you this, right? Do you feel like most parents are worrying too much about leaving their kids unsupervised in the outside world, but we're not worrying enough about what kids are doing inside with their phones? Because it's a far more dangerous place who's lurking in this phone than on your street corner.
Well, I don't know. I can't say for sure whether or not parents are failing in this regard. I do know that there's a sense in which the phone has become an attachment for all of us. Could you imagine not living without your phone in some ways? Could you imagine driving somewhere without having GPS to take you someplace, right? The technology has become an instrumental part of our lives. But I do think there's a sense in which some form of regulation has to kick in. We know that certain kids can't go to certain movies. If it's rated R, they can't go. If it's PG-13, if you're under 13, you can't go. We know that there are ways in which we can regulate public. If we view it as a public utility, there's a way in which we can regulate it. So part of what we have to do is to understand the nature. Let me put it differently. What role is social media playing in the very way in which we live the public good? It can't just simply be a private issue that only parents can deal with, right? It has to be something that we deal with as a society, it seems to me.
Eddie, remember
Imagine if
when...
there was no...
I was
Mary?
just going to say, Stephanie, remember when go to your room was punishment? I mean, now the kids are, oh, great, all right.
But remember, we had a similar issue with video games. We had a similar issue with video games at one point, right? I was of the age when Atari just came out. I just dated myself, right? I'm playing Pong and Froggy or whatever it was called, right? And that was an issue. We thought we were ruining the minds of children. Now it's much more complicated, and social media serves as this space for public deliberation. We have to think about it differently.
Yeah,
I believe, Eddie, it was called Frogger.
50 million 14-year-old boys can Google YouPorn, all right? And I mean, all I'm saying is, it's in the ether. I don't know how you can unscramble this egg. I mean, maybe there's a way to do it, but parents just got to figure out a way that the kid's going to interact with the world, and they're going to be faced with it, and it's probably just part of an education. I mean, God knows we don't want to tell a 9th grader that there are black people or gay people in the world. They might all fall apart and faint if you listen to some of these people. I mean, some of it's just ridiculous.
With all that's going on, where do you think we are in this race?
Yeah, pretty stuck. Maybe a touch better for President Biden, but it's very problematic across the board. And I think anybody that says they know who's going to win in November is not really paying attention to what's going on. And, hopefully he has a good debate here next Thursday. But we're watching closely. But I would call this stuck in a pretty narrow trading range, and it's pretty close.
What do you think about these fundraising numbers, though, James? Should the Biden campaign be worried?
Well, I think President Biden is raised a lot of money. Some guy writes you, one of the Mellons, a big guy that never worked a day in his life, would get $150 million check. That's a pretty good number right there. But I'm not too concerned about our ability to raise money now. I think we're raising good money. Our Senate races, I think the state party's probably doing pretty well. I'm not overly concerned about that.
Susan, we are saying, yes?
No, I was just asking James because he's been a political strategist for so long. What is Donald Trump's prep team like? I mean, what do they say? All right, here's your opening statement. This debate is rigged. and then it's just going to be it's fixed, and Hunter Biden. I mean, is that pretty much how you prep Donald Trump?
I don't think he prepares, and I agree with Matthew Dowd. He doesn't even know who he's going to pick as vice president. He got a bed one morning and decided to pick somebody. I have always been of the opinion and continue to be of the opinion, there's a good chance he doesn't show up. He'll just get up out of bed tomorrow, the 27th, and say, hey, why am I doing this? And it's very impulsive. Yeah. You know, he said he was going to testify on his own behalf at his trial. Of course, he never did, never even put on the defense. And just because Trump says he's going to do something is no indication whatsoever that that's something that's going to be done. So I stay skeptical, but then I don't think he's prepared. I think he's going to try a couple of things and a couple of stunts, and hopefully President Biden is well prepared and ready for that.
I was just going to say, I would take the bet, James, that Donald Trump shows up for the debate because Donald Trump, I think, believes that he can eviscerate President Biden in the debate. I don't know that that's true, but I think that's what Trump believes he can do. He has a lot of confidence. He has been very aggressive on the debate stage. As you know, it's super hard for candidates to figure out how to counter that. You saw Joe Biden last time around try to deal with the interruptions and finally say, will you please shut up, man, which is a very memorable debate line. But I think Trump is really eager to debate because he portrays these two versions of Biden. One as the kind of a guy who'll be very skilled and he'll have the moderators on his side. On the other hand, he says what I think he really believes, which is that Biden won't be hard for him, that Biden will be a weak opponent and that he can show him up next Thursday.
Look, Susan, you know a lot. You've been, you and I've known each other for I don't know how many years. I just try to make provocative predictions, and if I'm wrong, I'm a gambler. I'm wrong a lot. It's cost me a lot of money.
Journalists everywhere appreciate the fact that you make outrageous predictions, some of which you believe.
Yeah, but I just don't think Trump's going to figure it's not in his interest. But I don't know. That's just sticking my finger in the wind.
Eddie, what do you think we're going to get in this debate?
Chaos, absolute chaos. It's going to be, we're going to be overrun from Trump's side with nonsense. I think Biden's task is to stay steady in the midst of what will be an onslaught. Donald Trump believes, I think Susan is right in this regard, that he is the master of this form. And he thinks he's going to step in front of those cameras and he's going to manhandle Joe Biden. I think it's important for Irish Joe to show up and pop him in the chin, to pop the convicted felon in the chin. But I don't know how substantive it will be. It will be an indication of the depth of where we've fallen in terms of our politics. So my expectation, if he shows up, because I trust James's wisdom here, but my instinct tells me that he's going to be there. It's going to be an absolute mess, in my view.
I would say in politics, the third shot is the one that counts. Because unlike tennis, they're going to return your serve. Okay, they're going to return it. And what you want to do, and I think, Mary, you can tell me this, you really train to get in position for that third shot when your serve comes back.
Yeah.
So understand, he'll launch an attack. Trump will have some kind of answer, and just be ready for a short sentence, because the third shot is the kill shot. And they got to be ready for that.
Yeah, I'll be watching for that. I like that.
Yeah, no, I've always caught that and believed that. Never was much of a tennis player, but I do know that I've seen these guys, they have a best in serve, that it doesn't come back. But in politics, it always comes back to you. And sometimes you can just kill them with that third shot.
But think about the fact that we're a week out from this thing, and Donald Trump is already working the refs, trying to complain about the moderators. Right. Mary, pretend these two players are athletes. What does it tell you that one athlete is not deep in training? He's out there already complaining, saying this thing's rigged against him.
I think that's a terrible idea. But I mean, what's great about sports is it's a level of excellence that you really have to earn. You earn your muscles. You earn the consistency. I mean, politics is theater. It's different from sports in that way, isn't it? And Donald Trump loves a good theater. He's very theatrical. He's very dramatic. You know, even when he's not making any sense, he's loud about it.
Susan, we're seeing some people come off the bench that we haven't seen before. Melinda French Gates this week came out and endorsed Joe Biden, and she said she had to. Everything is at stake when it comes to women and girls. Were you surprised that we heard from her? And do you think more voices like hers will come out soon?
You know, I think there is a sense among a lot of Americans that this is an election with stakes we've never faced before, never in modern times. The future democracy. You know, there are some Trump supporters who think that way, but there are a lot of supporters of President Biden, or maybe people who haven't taken sides yet, who believe there would be a danger to democracy to elect Donald Trump with some of the proposals he's made, some of the ideas of taking control of the Justice Department, for instance. And so, yes, I think that we'll have some endorsements like that. But you know what? I'm not sure I think these endorsements matter very much. I think what is more likely to matter to voters, and what accounts, I think, for this slight improvement that we've seen in several national and swing state polls for Joe Biden, is how people feel things are going in their own lives, not what a celebrity or an executive or a philanthropist tells them. Right. So if the economy, you know, has been going pretty well, inflation in slightly better check, wages are going up, unemployment continues to be at record lows, I think that's why Biden is doing a little better. Even in the Fox News poll, for the first time since October, this week, Biden led Trump in the Fox News poll, and I think that is what that reflects.
I think Susan is absolutely right. You can get celebrity endorsements, Stephanie. I mean, that will be okay. That's fine. But, you know, it's all about the blocking and tackling on the ground. I think Biden has the campaign has to flood the zone. The GOTV has to be intense, particularly in Milwaukee, in Detroit, in Philadelphia, in Atlanta or Fulton County, right? Flood the zone. We need to get folk on the ground to get folk out. And you know, you can have endorsements. That will excite people, I suppose. But at the end of the day, you need a ground game. And the ground game can defeat Trump and his chaos, I believe.